All right, check it out. This is going to be an interesting video because I want to walk you all through my debate on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and it comes with a wild story because the circumstances surrounding my appearance are almost more interesting than the debate itself, but we will walk through both of them in a very concise and surgical way. So just to give you all the setting, just to set the stage here, Piers Morgan runs an online debate show, and on the panel with me, you see Benny Johnson, a right-wing commentator who took hundreds of thousands of dollars a month from Russia. You see Lindy Lee, a former Democrat who is on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris, but is now for some reason more Trump aligned and hates the Democrats. And then you see Jillian Michaels, a fitness instructor who is now doing health podcasts. And you know, my mom used to always watch Jillian Michaels for her workout videos, like a decade back, like 12 years back. I remember my mom used to always work out with Jillian Michaels. So it was kind of a funny full circle moment. But to give you all like the circumstances surrounding this was Monday morning. On Sunday, I flew to New York City to do some media stuff. And then I flew back very, very early on Monday morning. I mean, like I woke up at 4 a.m. I got on my flight at 6. And when I was on my flight, I got invited onto Piers Morgan's panel, right? I got invited onto this panel. No other Democrat wanted to do the whole Biden age debate. And I was like, fine, I'll go on the panel. I'll do it. But my flight landed at 9. I needed to be on the show at 10:20. So my flight lands at 9 and I start speeding home and I realize, oh my God, my gas, I'm almost out of gas. So I have to pull off to the side. I have to fill up my gas. Then I take a wrong turn and it adds like 6 minutes. And that 6 minutes made me late for the show. So if you watch the full episode, I join late. And when I join, I then begin to realize this is kind of just like a 1v4. It's kind of like 4 MAGA aligned people talking about Biden and then me. So let's jump in. Before this segment, they interviewed Jake Tapper about his book regarding Biden's age. Now, here's the thing. If I wasn't on this panel, there would be no Democrat on it. So I didn't want to hop on and immediately start defending Biden as completely fine. I wanted to give a middle of the road take so I had some more credibility. I'm not just going to say that Biden was completely fine. Clearly he's old. Clearly there was some stuff going on there. But I think the important thing is to bring it back to Trump and show that there's a double standard at play. So that being said, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel below. And let me know what you think about this at the end.
My one question to you before I move to the others is, if it had been Donald Trump in the same position, would you have been honest? Be honest now. Would you have been leading the charge in the way you've just described?
Yes. The answer is absolutely yes. Because I am in a, because I'm in a, oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. I'm in a, first off, Piers, you're close friends with Donald Trump. Do you believe that Donald Trump has problems with his energy levels?
That's not even the question here. Piers Morgan was saying if the Trump administration were lying and spreading lies, would you be leading the charge to call them out? And Benny Johnson says, of course I would. He's lying. He is absolutely lying. When it comes to election fraud, he wouldn't call them out. He couldn't name a single lie Trump has ever told if I asked him. I get a rebuttal in just 1 second, but watch how he tries to talk about Trump's health. It's very weird.
Answer that question.
No, I'm not suggesting for a moment. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply saying that
I'm telling you as a...
No, I'm simply saying if it was...
As a matter of morality.
Okay, they just keep talking over each other, but then Piers throws a question over to me.
A lot of signs of cognitive disrepair and so on and so on. Surely the humane thing to do for any spouse in that position would have been to gently lead him off into the sunset and to persuade him that he could not continue. Not the complete opposite.
Yeah, listen, I'm not here to defend every single misstep or fault of the Democratic Party or the Biden admin. There are a lot of real conversations that we should be having about the incentive structures that allowed this to happen with people like Jill Biden and Hunter Biden and his close advisors. We could talk about the risk averseness of the Democratic Party and all of the flaws, but I don't know if this is the conversation we're about to have. I think when you have Lindy Lee on a panel with Benny Johnson and Jillian Michaels, it's going to be more of like a masturbatory partisan fest. And I really liked your question aimed at Benny. I think that was a good one. And you weren't trying to say that Trump has cognitive decline. You were asking if he would stay ideologically consistent when the admin is lying.
Right.
I guess the question to Benny is, do you think the 2020 election was stolen, or did Trump lie about that? Would you lead the charge and say that he lied about that?
So, okay, My question gets to the core of what Benny claimed. Benny claimed he would call the Trump administration out if they were lying about anything, if they were trying to do a cover-up. Well, Trump lied about top-down election fraud. So I asked him that straight up. Do you think the election was stolen? And by the way, my point earlier about this being a masturbatory partisan fest, I wasn't just saying that to be cheeky. I was saying that because if you want to have a conversation about the incentive structures that allowed that to happen, that actually is okay. But you can't have that conversation with three MAGA folk in Piers Morgan. You can't have a MAGA panel and then invite me as a liberal and not even allow me to finish my full thoughts. You cannot say that it's a fair and balanced conversation when you're only talking about Biden. If you want to talk about the incentive structures at play, let's talk about Trump's cognitive decline. Let's talk about the cover-ups in the Trump admin with Signalgate. Let's talk about the Trump corruption. Let's talk about Trump's inability to even have a coherent economic policy that is ruining our alliances. Like, if you want to talk about all of these things in one, that is different, but you can't just have a tilted MAGA panel. You guys see my point there, right? So going back to this, I just asked the question, was the election stolen?
About the incentive structures that allowed this to happen with people like Jill Biden and Hunter Biden and his close advisors. We could talk about the risk averseness of the Democratic Party and all of the flaws, but I don't know if this is the conversation we're about to have. I think when you have Lindy Lee on a panel with Benny Johnson and Jillian Michaels, it's going to be more of like a masturbatory partisan fest. And I really liked your question aimed at Benny. I think that was a good one. And you weren't trying to say that Trump has cognitive decline. You were asking if he would stay ideologically consistent when the admin is lying.
Right.
I guess the question to Benny is, do you think the 2020 election was stolen, or did Trump lie about that? Like, would you lead the charge and say that he lied about that?
It was absolutely rigged and stolen, yeah.
I actually agree too.
It's insane. And I didn't want to what about and bring them down the 2020 election rabbit hole, but you see the double standards right there.
You guys buried the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Well, I tell you what. I don't want to. I don't want to get into relitigating either the stolen election, which I don't think was stolen, or the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was.
Benny Johnson would not.
Just to be clear, Donald Trump, as I said to Trump to his face in our last interview, I
didn't really get a chance to follow up or rebut, but the point was, how are you going to claim that you'd lead the charge calling out the admin when you just follow the admin's biggest lie, the big lie?
Had you told the world that the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story had cost you the election, I would agree with you and I would support you. I think they reckon it could have swung it by 10%, right? Because it was so damning, the stuff on that laptop, and it was suppressed by big tech at the behest of a Democrat party. So on that, I'm with Trump 100%. On the stolen election, I'm not. But let's not go over those again, Adam. The central argument is that throughout for almost all of the Biden presidency, there was a massive con going on with the American people, that there was a cover-up perpetrated right from the top by him, by his wife, by his family, by his White House staff, by leading Democrats, by donors who must have known, by celebrities who knew, by former presidents who must have known. The whole load of them were in this together to stop the American people from knowing that Joe Biden was in serious cognitive decline.
That is just not true. The top-down conspiracy that Piers Morgan is alleging is not even what Jake Tapper is alleging. It seems more like Biden and his inner circle kind of just decided to run a campaign and then sort of build a wall around him. It wasn't this top-down effort from every single Democrat and celebrity and leading media figure. I mean, if Jake Tapper were trying to hide this, why would he host a debate that was a catalyst for Biden dropping out?
Which he was, and which, by the way, as I said to Jake and Alex, British journalists like me, who were not even in America at the time for half of these columns, I was writing them for the New York Post, were writing this on an almost monthly basis. I was calling for him to have a 25th Amendment move, right? This was 2 years before.
The question is, how did this manifest in Biden's policy at all? Is there one policy area where this manifested?
Before the election. And I'm not even American. He's not even my president. I could see what was happening. I just want you to be honest, Adam. You knew. When you saw, as Benny said, when you saw him falling over all the time, stumbling, all the gaffes, everything else, in your heart you knew, didn't you, that he wasn't up to the job?
I didn't. No. I knew that he was getting older, but I still think he was up to the job, and you can demonstrate that in the actual work that he did. But just to back up, I will not sit here and deny that Biden is old. What's funny?
See, they try to laugh like Biden's policy was bad, but Trump has literally put our country in the thing.
You don't think he's senile? You don't think calling on a dead congressman is alarming?
I mean, we can go through all of the insane things Trump has said. I mean, Trump gave a speech at West Point where he didn't say a coherent thought the entire time. I'm not going to whataboutism. Listen, just to back up, I don't want to whataboutism. I'm not going to defend Biden. He is cognitively declining, absolutely, and he was while in office. But Pierce's framing takes it way farther. You basically just said there was a top-down conspiracy, including celebrities, including every politician in the Democratic Party, every journalist, not
Adam,
every journalist.
literally, there was, though.
Okay,
Having been part of the machinery, I can tell you there was.
Jake just said that.
Jake Tapper was the one who hosted the debate. Obviously, I'm fighting a bit of an uphill battle here, so it's a little bit hard to see me try to fight four at once. But the thing is, Jake Tapper was the one who hosted the debate that was a catalyst for Biden's downfall. What kind of cover-up would that be? Also, the New York Times wrote hundreds and hundreds of articles about Biden's age. The idea that nobody was talking about this is just not true.
Let me read you a quote. Let me read you a quote. Hang on. Don't all talk over each other. But Adam, before I let you go, let me read you this quote. On the decision to run against Trump, a quote on page 85 of the book quotes a longtime Biden aide, who said he just had to win and then he could disappear for 4 years. He'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while. That is a Biden aide, long time, about why, this is before the election, he gave this quote to Alex Thompson. I mean, that is shocking. It's damnable, frankly.
That is shocking. That should not have happened. And that is a different claim than what you just made regarding a top-down effort. I thought you were about to give me some evidence of like every celebrity out there knowing this and then trying to cover
Here's the
it up.
evidence, Adam. Here's the evidence. Yeah. You were all watching what I was watching. You were all watching exactly the same thing I was watching.
I don't know if videos of Biden that are selectively edited, I don't know if that's proof of anything, any broader conspiracy. So now their claim is that selectively edited videos of Biden is proof of a top-down conspiracy. Let's skip a little bit to the end.
And you do it on behalf of the American people, don't you?
I agree. I guess I have a question that I want to pose to anyone here. I guess I'll ask it to Lindy. First of all, I want to say, just to back up, I'm pretty sure the New York Times posted a record number of articles about Biden's age throughout 2024. But also, if Jake Tapper 100% knew that Biden was senile, I'll grant that, I'll just concede that for a second. If he knew that, why did he gladly host a debate that exposed and perhaps was a catalyst to Biden's downfall?
I think that Jake Tapper probably knew, but probably not to the extent that we eventually
found out. Okay, so wouldn't it not be
I
covering it up if Jake Tapper knew, but then he held the debate which exposed it?
Then he's not covering it up. He exposed it.
All of us were shocked. I was actually at the debate. I knew that Biden was deteriorating. I didn't know that he was deteriorating to that extent. It came as a shock to me as well. And that was the night, actually, he said, tell your husband I said hi. I'm not married, by the way. So it just, Jake Tapper, it makes me sick, though. He decided to write a book the day before the election.
Betty, do you want to answer my question if Lindy won't?
I just did.
I'll answer it.
Jake Tapper, lambasted.
You know what? I
Warren
really don't. I just don't think, with all the will in the world, Jake Tapper is not the real villain here. Yeah, I'm quite happy if you guys. I'm sure he won't care if you keep whacking him. But the bottom line is the actual villain is the occupant of the White House and the people around him. I mean, there's one line in the book, which I think we should just end with. 5 people were running the country, and Joe Biden was at best a senior member of the board. This is about the President of the United States. It's shocking. So the real blame game, yes, the media dropped the ball. To quote Benny at the end, they dropped the ball, dear fellow. They did. And that is, something they have to accept, and they're beginning to, and there'll be more accountability, I hope, on that. It can't happen again. But the real lie was perpetrated right from the top.
Real quick, to Adam, since he's picking on Lindy here. Adam, if Joe Biden was on the ballot in 2024, would you have voted for him?
Over Trump, yes.
Just by knowing that this guy.
And by the way, I don't want to hear you virtue signaling about military members in Afghanistan. When Trump today posted Happy Memorial Day to all, including the scum that spent the last 4 years. Don't virtue signal about Afghanistan.
Adam, would you have would you have voted for Kanye West if it was him against Trump on the ballot?
No, Kanye West? No.
Oh, so you've got standards.
I don't know what kind of gotcha this is supposed to be. I'm sorry. When you're on a panel of 4 people versus 1, it feels like they're all just condescending down to you, right? But when we take a step back, yes, of course I would vote for Biden over Trump. Of course I would vote for the dude who has a steady hand, who has to go to bed at 6 p.m. over the dude who will overthrow the government at 2 a.m. when you aren't looking. Of course. I mean, the people that Biden puts around him are way, way more steady-handed than anybody in the Trump admin, including Pete Hegseth or whoever else he's pulling off of Fox News. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who had the biggest podcast before. Yes, I stand by that. I never really got the chance to defend it because the way the panel works is you get your short little sound bites, but...
Yeah. I mean, maybe somebody who kept a steady hand earlier. Sorry, one more thing. Earlier, Piers, you said Biden allowed the invasion of Ukraine to happen. He froze Vladimir Putin out of the global order for years, while Donald Trump is ceding land and leverage and territory.
Well, when I say allowed, I mean it happened on his watch. Well, it happened on Biden's watch.
I don't understand what the point is. Vladimir Putin has invaded countries over.
Putin has invaded multiple countries. He invaded Georgia. Then he invaded the Crimea in 2014.
He didn't invade any countries on Trump's watch.
It's such a terrible talking point. It's such a terrible, terrible talking point.
And Adam, under which party's presidents did he invade Georgia and Ukraine? Under which party? Republican or Democrat?
I don't think Vladimir Putin solely makes his decisions based off of who's the current president.
I think it's a huge determination.
Let's not get into the history of warfare.
Who was the president just called out?
I wasn't trying to derail the panel and go down the rabbit hole of Russia and Ukraine, but Piers Morgan is just alleging that Biden had this insanely unsuccessful presidency because of his age, when that's not the reality. That doesn't line up with the reality. He was steady-handed on Russia and Ukraine. He allowed Putin to be frozen out of the global order. He didn't allow the invasion to happen. Trump is the one allowing Putin to take more territory on a daily basis. The entire panel felt a little bit gaslighty. When it's a 4v1, I was fighting an uphill battle, but I'm not going to victimize myself. I knew what I was getting into. I enjoyed it at the end of the day. Let me know what you all think. If you made it this far in the video, honestly, let me know what you think. I went away. You want to know my honest thoughts? I went away not very satisfied with my performance, but it's not because I did bad. It's not because I choked or flopped. It's more because there were some points where I could have been more aggressive, and I wish I would have popped in there and said what I was thinking in my head. But first time for everything, and next time will be better. Love you all. Peace out.